Hello, and welcome back to Uncultured Twenties. My name is Julia.
And my name is Leanne.
And this podcast is a journey of us culturally educating ourselves in what is considered classic in pop culture.
You know, media that people would say, you've never seen that, or you've never listened to that.
Films, music videos, albums, consumable content. We review it and why we think it's made its way into the canon.
Or why we think it shouldn't be.
We're always open to suggestions, so keep up with us at Uncultured Twenties on Instagram and TikTok. We're also on Letterboxd and Twitter at Uncultured Twenties.
This season, we're covering all things TIFF.
Today, we're taking a look at the Talking Heads concert film, Stop Making Sense.
Uncultured Twenties.
So I am very excited to be diving into this film and the band's history in general, since I've been really getting into Talking Heads over the past few years. I started listening to them in high school, and I just was like really impressed and surprised by their unique sound.
Yeah, I feel like it's one of those bands I kind of grew up listening to without knowing that I was growing up listening to them.
Right.
You know, my dad will always play Once in a Lifetime or whatever. I feel like it was always in like a movie soundtrack or something like that, but I don't think I really knew who they were until high school. I think like I remember, it's kind of embarrassing now thinking about it, but on our first date, Liv and I were talking about music and whatever, and I was like, I started talking about Psycho, and I was like, wait, do you know the Talking Heads? Like, I was like so pretentious about it and like so annoying, and Liv's like, yeah, I know who the Talking Heads are.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's so funny. You're like, yeah, have you heard of this like band? They're pretty underground.
I don't know if you would know them.
That's so funny. Well, my contribution to embarrassing story, I guess, is that I think that I first like took actual notice of them because of Rock Band.
That's not embarrassing.
And I feel like this is the genesis of so much of my music taste, which is so funny. It's like I played it on Rock Band. And then I was like just going through and like, oh, this is a good song. But yeah, there's, I think, Psycho Killers on Rock Band too. And so that's when I was like, oh, what band is this? Like, yeah, I've heard Once in a Lifetime and Burning Down the House and stuff. And then, yeah, just Rock Band opening up my musical horizons.
It really did form, I think, both of our music tastes, which is...
That is so funny.
Really impressive. Maybe we should do an episode on
Rock Band exclusively.
How it's influenced the culture.
So, Stop Making Sense is a concert film released in 1984 and is a snapshot of their tour following the release of their album Speaking in Tongues. It was filmed over 4 nights at the Hollywood Pantages, I'm not sure how to say. The film, directed by Jonathan Demme, who later directed Silence of the Lambs, is considered by critics to be one of the best concert films of all time. And this year, movie studio A24 restored and re-released the film in 4K for its 40th anniversary. The film premiered at TIFF and in IMAX theaters across the country and was then followed by a live Q&A with the band.
Before we get into the music of the film, why don't we take a look at the band's history, because there is a dramatic falling out.
Talking Heads was formed in 1975 and is made up of lead singer David Byrne, drummer Chris France, bassist Tina Weymouth, and keyboardist and guitarist Jerry Harrison. Byrne and France met and formed the band The Artistics while they were freshmen in college, and soon after moving to New York, France's girlfriend, who was Tina Weymouth, joined the band, and thus Talking Heads was born. After being signed to Sire Records, Jerry Harrison was then recruited to join the band.
They released their debut album, Talking Heads 77, in 1977. Makes sense.
Yeah.
And with it came their first single to hit the charts, Psycho Killers.
You start a conversation, you can't even finish it. You're talking a lot, but you're not saying anything. When I have nothing to say, my lips are sealed. Say something once, why say it again? Psycho killer.
The same year, Weymouth and France got married. In the following years, the Talking Heads went on to collaborate with producer Brian Eno, who helped the band explore some new musical directions, including post-punk and psychedelic funk. And Brian Eno is also a very prolific producer in his own right.
How did I get here? Letting the days go by, let the water hold me down, letting the days go by.
Their album Remain in Light was heavily influenced by Afrobeat and bandleader Fela Kuti. During this time, Weymouth and France formed Tom Tom Club. Harrison released a solo album, and Byrne and Brian Eno released an album together.
After a brief hiatus, the band came back together in 1983 to release Speaking in Tongues, featuring the band's only American top 10 hit, which is Burning Down the House, which I'm sure we all know. The tour following this album release is, of course, the show that we see in the Stop Making Sense film. This was also their last tour. The band released 3 more albums before taking another, quote, hiatus, and then they officially announced that they had disbanded in 1991, so it became an indefinite hiatus. France said that he learned that Byrne had left from the band from reading an article and said, as far as we're concerned, the band never really broke up. David just decided to leave. And that's just the start of the drama. There has been so much that they have been saying about it, like, over the years. And it's, I don't know, that brief hiatus to indefinite hiatus, it was just the start of a whole saga of drama for them.
I mean, it's giving One Direction hiatus.
Oh, no.
I feel like there's a lot of bands that go on hiatus and then they're like, actually, never mind. But right now we're having a real resurgence of bands coming back together. I mean, the Jonas Brothers are back together and touring. There's a lot of older bands, like The Cure was on tour, things like that. So you never know. Maybe they'll be touring again. Mm-hmm. The last 3 remaining band members, excluding Byrne, started touring as the Shrunken Heads in the early 90s, and they released an album, No Talking, Just Head, under the name The Heads. Yeah. I love that. Which featured a multitude of different vocalists. Byrne then took legal action against them, stating that it was a pretty obvious attempt to cash in on the Talking Heads name.
I think that's, like, so funny and also just feels so petty to just be like, we're still, like, no talking, just head.
Well, why aren't they allowed to keep playing without him? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, it's like you're the one who left the band.
Yeah, you can't be mad about that.
The band reunited in 1999 to promote the first re-release of Stop Making Sense, but they did not perform together. They then reunited again in 2002 at the ceremony of their induction into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, where Byrne said further work together was unlikely due to, quote, bad blood and musically being, quote, miles apart. Weymouth described Byrne as a man incapable of returning friendship.
That's pretty hard cut. That's a deep cut.
I think she really hates him. From what I've seen, it seems like she really does not like him.
Well, now retrospectively, the band has given us a little bit more insight as to what ended up causing the split. Byrne says as a younger person, he was not pleasant to be around and, quote, was little more than a tyrant. Specifically referencing the Speaking in Tongues tour, he said, I became, I think, kind of obsessive about getting that show up and running. I might not have been the most pleasant person to deal with at that point. In 2020, France released a memoir titled Remain in Love, where he describes Byrne as egotistical and reveals that he would often take sole writing credits on songs. He also mentions that while Byrne's public persona has improved, he believes that he hasn't changed, saying, if you knew David Byrne, you would not be jealous of him.
Oh my goodness, that's a lot of drama, especially hearing it just like in a memoir from one of the band members, like years and years later, just being like, yeah, I know that this guy seems nice now, but yeah, he still sucks.
Damn. Yeah.
Like, oh my goodness. Anyways, fast forward to now, all band members together again for the re-release of their acclaimed concert film and a Q&A session at the end. I saw the premiere in an IMAX theater, and honestly, I think it's the best way I could have experienced it. I didn't know what I was going to expect going in. I didn't realize that it was just a concert film. I just vaguely knew that it was a documentary. But I was pleasantly surprised. I think that it was just a little snapshot into their show after the tour. Obviously, they're not getting back together as a band anytime soon, so it's nice to see a little snapshot of what it would be like to be at a Talking Heads concert. And it was interesting too being in the theater with people because everyone was sort of like, they were almost reacting like it was a concert. Like after each song, people in the theater would just like clap, like they were just clapping for the screen, which I thought was so funny. It's like a when the airplane lands and then the people clap at the end, and it's like they can't hear you. But
Were there a lot of people at the theater you were at?
it was pretty full, yeah. We got there maybe like 20 minutes before. Thankfully we had our seats were pre-selected, so it was nice. But yeah, everyone was like all right next to each other in the middle. Like we were all like, we need to experience this in the best way possible. But yeah, it was pretty busy. I went to the one that was in Oakville, so a little different from my usual Hamilton theater that's a little less crowded. But yeah, it was really cool though. It was definitely an interesting experience and something that I haven't felt or been to before, so it was cool.
Yeah, I really wanted to go see this, but I mean, so I was in Toronto, so obviously it was so packed, and it was impossible to get tickets, and the tickets would have been to the actual live thing that was streaming to all the other theaters. Like, I actually didn't realize until you went that it would be streaming everywhere else. Like, I totally could have gone somewhere else, but it's okay. I watched the original 1984 video, so I don't know if what we watched was like, I don't know how different it could have been to what you watched. That's maybe an interesting sort of comparison, but I really liked it. It flew by. And it was really, I knew in my head that they had filmed it over 4 days, but watching it, it seemed like it was all the same show, which was really cool. I think it's really interesting way to preserve history because, you know, I feel like a lot of the times you're like, oh, I wonder what it would have been like to see Elvis back in the day, or what it would have been like to go to like a Beatles concert at the height of their fame. And something like this, I mean, the quality is amazing. And it's actually like on stage with them. It's not filmed from the back of the theater or something. So I thought that was really, really cool.
One of the songs, I can't remember which one, but it's like just one straight shot of David Byrne for like the whole song. And they're like, yeah, we weren't trying to make it like, you know, a bunch of shots all compiled together. It was like really just trying to set it up so it's like as if you're at the concert and you're just watching it. And there were shots of the audience too, but they decided to cut most of them out because, again, they're like, it's not really about the audience, like it's about the show, it's about the band that you're seeing. So I thought that was interesting as well. And yes, after the film, I didn't realize, but I knew they were doing a Q&A live at TIFF because it was all premiering at the same time. But there's just like, it came up on the screen, it was like, don't leave yet, there's a live Q&A. And I was like, oh, okay. So we stayed, and then they screened the Q&A to us from TIFF. That was interesting, definitely, to see them all in the same room. It was also a little like jarring to see them from being like young in 1984 and then suddenly they're all just like old. Like, it's like, oh yeah, I forgot
40
that, like,
years later
they've aged, like, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was hosted by Spike Lee. I thought it was interesting. I don't know, Griffin and I went to see the film together and we were kind of talking about it afterwards, and I thought it was a little awkward. Like, I felt like there was still maybe some tensions, or I might have just been reading into it a little too much, but it could have also just been like the fact that it was live and they were, you know, if they didn't have an answer to the question, it's like you can't just cut it out and do another one.
That's cool that it's like a full-on live stream into a theater.
Yeah.
Like, how is the video quality and the audio quality?
It was actually very good. It was, I mean, I guess they're pumping it through the IMAX speakers for me, so I don't know. But one thing, it was hosted by Spike Lee. One thing that was a bit awkward was he kept asking the question to David and then afterwards being like, or anybody else who wants to answer. And we're all like, oh, like it was the whole band, not just David. But so I thought that was funny. But
and I mean, that's also probably definitely some of the tension between them, is that like, he was seen as like a leader of the band, or like,
yeah,
you know, egotistical or whatever.
Yeah. And like Griffin was sort of giving me the background too as we were watching, and he was saying like he just became super like controlling, and that was mostly what ended up tearing them apart, because he wanted everything down to like their outfits to be a certain way. Like the bassist had these like sleeves in the film, and apparently he told her she had to wear those sleeves. Or like one of the backup singers cut their hair right before the show, and he was like, well, hair, like flipping your hair back and forth is an important part of the show, and so you have to like get a weave. So it was like, yeah, there are definitely reasons for why I think they broke up, but yeah, I mean, it was definitely interesting seeing them all there together. And they were talking to in the interview about how like while they were at the theater watching the premiere, like people in the audience were like getting up and dancing like as if they were there, which I thought was nice. And I'm like, yeah, I probably would have been dancing too if I was there. Their music is just so like, you know, you just want to dance, you just want to get up and bop. Like I was kind of bopping my head a little bit. One of the people on the other side of me was like, he was a younger guy and he was so like into it. He was like going so hard and he was like sitting forward in his seat and like staring so intently at the screen. And I'm like, yeah, this is it's crazy how after all this time too that their staying power is still like so intense. But
yeah, I mean, I just was streaming it on the TV and was like dancing around and sort of doing little things, and it was like fun. It's not the kind of music you can just sit and like listen to. It's really energetic. It's really like beat driven. It's really fun. And I mean, you watch them dancing on stage. It's a great time. The controlling stuff, yeah, I mean, I don't doubt it. I really do appreciate his creative vision, and I understand, you know, having something you want to execute, but when you're working in a band, you can't. Yeah. You don't have that right, I think. Yeah, I think, you know, it's different if you're like Ariana Grande and then you're hiring all these people to execute your vision versus like a group effort.
For sure.
Jonathan Demme, who was the director, has passed away. Why do you think Spike Lee was sort of paired to this documentary? Because to me, it sort of seems like a really random pairing.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing afterwards. This film, I think, is more, of course, about music than it is about film in general. And so I thought that it might have made more sense to have like a musician or someone more involved in that realm doing the interview, just because he was asking, like, he would ask about questions about the director and, you know, what sort of like, why did they choose that director and everything like that, which was fine. But then to a certain point, it's like, well, it's not about the fact that it's a movie. Like, it's about the concert, it's about the music. And so you can only answer so many questions up to a certain point. And then, you know, he was asking, oh, well, what's your favorite song and things like that. So yeah, I'm not sure why. Not that, I mean, he was fine. It was just in general sort of, I felt that it was an awkward interview. Apparently other people didn't, but I just did.
Yeah. I mean, Spike Lee is a prolific director, huge name. I mean, maybe that's why they're like drawing you in, but I mean, Talking Heads are a big enough name. I don't think they need another name value to have that. But definitely an interesting pairing. I would love to know the thought process behind it, because I do agree that there's like a specific art to going behind filming a concert film, but I mean, because Jonathan Demme's not there, it's sort of like you can't really have these questions answered.
Mm-hmm. I mean, they were just performing their show. Like, there was obviously some discussion involved regarding certain choices that were made, but like at the same time, it was just like this was their concert tour, so it's not like they were being specifically directed to do things. Like, you know, obviously the director was like working on their, like, directing the production crew and everything like that. But
yeah, so I guess we can start talking about the music in the film.
Yeah.
I didn't really pay attention, like, as the songs were going, which song was which one.
Yeah.
I think the highlight for me was actually all the stage musicians that were playing with them that weren't part of the band. They had the two background singers that were more like a gospel style. They were awesome. I was like, I love this.
Yes.
They were really a highlight for me, and also the percussionist. I mean, as y'all know, Julie and I are percussionists, so we tend to pay attention to that stuff. But the guy that was doing percussion, it was like, that was the cherry on top. Yeah. You know, he got the cowbell going on. He has, oh shoot, what are those things called again? The red, like, wood blocks? I don't know.
Yeah, like temple blocks.
Yeah, the temple blocks were so cool. Just all the percussion was like, it really made it like, okay, I want to dance, I want to get up, like, this is like really gluing it together. Mm-hmm. So that was the highlight for me, was not even the actual band but the people that were joining them on stage.
Yeah, I love the way that they started the show and as it built. So, like, you know, he comes up by himself on stage and he's like, I'm gonna play a tape. And then he just does Psycho Killer completely solo. I thought that was such a cool version of Psycho Killer as well. I like it a little bit better than the actual one, which is, I mean, not great because it's just him by himself. But I don't know. I really liked that. And then I liked how they, everybody sort of came on one at a time. And yeah, those first like couple songs when it was actually stripped back, I thought I like preferred those versions to the album versions. I'm not sure why, but I really liked those. But then yeah, of course, once everybody's on stage, you're just like, oh, now it's time to dance and like really get moving. So, but yeah, it's definitely a different thing than just having 4 people versus having like a full, like, I think there's 8 people total on the stage. It all just like blurred together for me into one long concert.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the like beauty of it too, is like the cohesiveness of the album and the sound and how they go from one to another. I think that's why it makes it such a good concert film as well.
Yeah.
And also sort of, you know, his vocals are really rhythmic, right? Like he kind of uses his lyrics and his voice as an instrument. And I think like that's part of the fun of singing along, is like he says all these things in like a weird rhythm in a weird way that it's just so fun to say. Like
You better believe that I walk around all the time just going, this is not my beautiful house. This is not my beautiful wife.
I love that part.
Yeah, especially when Burning Down the House and Once in a Lifetime came on too in the theater, everybody like, I think that they like clapped when it came on. Like it was like everyone was just so excited to see those specifically.
I think the drum solo in Burning Down the House is like one of my all-time favorite.
Yeah. There are a lot of things in those songs that make them so good.
Honestly, maybe it's just me not even listening to the words, but I don't even know what most of these songs are like.
Oh yeah, no.
About?
No. I don't know. I feel like you don't need to though. Maybe that's like maybe people will disagree with that, but qu'est-ce que c'est?
Yeah, qu'est-ce que c'est?
Yeah, for sure. Sorry, sidetracked. Do you remember Fela Kuti from
Yes.
History? Because I saw that and I was like, it's Fela Kuti.
I know, I do remember Fela Kuti from history class. Is he the one who had like his own like compound filled with like women and kids, and it was kind of like against the military?
Oh, yes. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, okay. So in 1970, he founded the Kelakuta Republic Commune, which declared itself independent from military rule. All this stuff. It's cool. I like, when stuff that we studied actually comes in handy.
I know. I'm like, wait, I know this.
But apparently he sort of created Afrobeat, which is a fusion of jazz, funk, and highlife. So I can totally see how that influences the Talking Heads. And
yeah.
I'm really glad that they brought in extra musicians, because the band is extremely white, and the musicians that they brought on stage, like the gospel singing, really brought some of that culture in from which they were influenced.
Yeah. The unique sound that they end up creating with their fusion of everything ended up influencing a lot of bands as well. We have Arcade Fire, U2, REM, Vampire Weekend, and Radiohead, who I learned actually got their name from the Talking Heads song called Radiohead.
I think I knew that deep in the back of my mind.
I'm like, oh my gosh, that is so cool. I didn't even know that Talking Heads had a song called Radiohead.
You may tell yourself, this is not my beautiful house. You may tell yourself, this is not my beautiful wife.
So when listening to Talking Heads, I find myself very interested in the titles of their songs. As we kind of said, don't even know what some of the songs are about. But I thought that it might be fun to play a little game called, I guess not called anything, but which songs are Talking Head songs and which songs are Julia created this song title songs.
And whatever songs that are your titles, we actually have to make that song.
Oh no. Okay. Okay, so the first one, Moon Rocks.
That is a Julia special.
Absolutely not.
What? No,
that is a Talking Head song.
That totally sounds like something that you would do.
Nope, that's one of my favorite songs from Speaking in Tongues. He says in it, I ate a rock from the moon.
Oh.
And he just sings about moon rocks. So again, I don't know if there's a deeper meaning to that song, but yeah, that is a Talking Head special.
There you go. This is a really good quiz game for me because I literally do not know like any of these songs' names. So I will be completely guessing everything.
Okay. B. This is the second one. Chess is a game for two.
Okay. I want to say this is a Talking Head song.
No, this one I made up.
Oh my god. Okay.
When I was making these titles, I thought I was just like looking around the room and choosing something and then going from there. So
that's a good song title.
I'm like, this kind of fits the vibe of their songs. So okay, next we have Don't Worry About the Government.
Okay, this is a hard one. I'm going to verbalize my thought process.
Okay.
I want to say this is a Julia special because it just like, you know, sounds like something that we would make up. But is it too like woo-woo that maybe it's just a Talking Head song?
I don't know. What's it going to be? What's the final answer?
I'm going to say it's a Julia special.
Nope, this is a Talking Head song.
Stop. I thought it was too on the nose.
I know. Yeah, no, this one, mine would be Worry About the Government, I think.
I see.
But, no, but. Okay, next we have Houses in Motion.
Okay, like I want to say this is a Talking Head song because it actually sounds like a title, but because of the way this has been going, I'm going to say it's a Julia special.
This is a Talking Head song.
Damn, I'm doing so bad. I'm doing so bad. That's okay, though. I feel like I've tested you quite a bit.
Yes, I'm like, this is my retribution for all the failed pop quizzes.
Yeah.
Okay, and the final one, Blue Glass.
Okay, this one is the most, like, up in the air for me. Mm-hmm. But let me look at the... Okay, so first one was real. Mm-hmm. Second one was Julia. Mm-hmm. Third one was real. Fourth one was real. This one must be a Julia.
This one is a Julia special. This was based on the cup that I was drinking out of when I was writing these.
Blue glass.
Blue glass. I'm like, well, it just has to be like abstract enough that it makes you think about it, but
no, okay, these song titles were all so like you completely tricked me and fooled me. Like,
yes,
that was good.
Okay, so then we have two songs to make. Chess is a game for two, which sounds a little pretentious to me, and then Blue Glass.
Okay, yeah. Blue Glass I feel like could be like, you know, we could bring in a bunch of different glasses and like run around the rims and do some looping.
Yeah.
Kind of do some like ethereal sort of like noises in the back.
Something there.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
It's so poetic, you know, you can see through it, but there's a barrier, and then when the light shifts through it, it creates a rainbow. I don't know.
Oh my gosh. Or it's just the cup that you were drinking out of when you wrote the song.
Well, I guess that's it from us. Completely failed that quiz, but it's fine. Connect with us on Letterboxd at Uncultured Twenties with a 20s, and you can see all the films that we've covered. Or you can go to Spotify and see our playlists at Uncultured Twenties, TWENTIES. Some of the playlists and songs might have weird names, just like the ones that we came up with.
Yes. We're also on Instagram, so follow us at Uncultured Twenties. That's TWENTIES. And if you went to TIFF, let us know what you thought about the festival. What films did you love and which did you hate?
We're Uncultured Twenties, and we'll see you on the airwaves.
Uncultured 20s.